Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with our today's practice questions, a quick gentle reminder. BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS has already launched its official Telegram channel. What is that you have to do? Follow the link given in the description box or scan this QR code. This will take you to our official Telegram channel. Join the channel so that you get all the current affairs related updates. Let's get started and look into the first question. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to solid waste management rules of 2016? Responsibilities of generators have been introduced to segregate waste into three streams. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is responsible for overall monitoring of the rules. Generator will have to pay user fee to waste collector. The rules are now applicable beyond municipal areas and extend to urban agglomerations, census towns, notified industrial townships, port and harbour, and special economic zones. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 3, and 4 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to solid waste management rules of 2016. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we speak about solid waste, what exactly is the solid waste? Solid waste is the unwanted or useless solid materials. This is generated because of the human activities where in residential areas, in industrial areas, commercial areas, and this can be broadly categorized into three ways. How? Let's say for example, if we are speaking about the origin, what does it include? It includes domestic waste, industrial waste, commercial waste, construction waste, as well as institutional waste. Then we also have categorization on the basis of content. This basically means we have the organic material, glass, metal, plastic, paper, so on and so forth. And finally, what we have is the hazard potential. The hazard potential is also taken into picture, where we have the toxic waste, non-toxic waste, flammable, radioactive, infectious, so on and so forth. In order to regulate this solid waste, what the government of India has come up with is called as the Solid Waste Management Rules of 2016. So this will basically reduce or eliminate the adverse impact on the environment as well as the human health. If we look into the second statement, it is not under the control of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, but instead it is the Ministry of Environment, which is why the second statement is wrong. When you look into the first statement, yes, responsibilities of the generators have been introduced to segregate waste into three streams. Which are these three streams? One, it includes what is called as wet, which is biodegradable. Then what we have is dry, plastic, paper, metal, wood, etc. And finally, what we have is the domestic hazardous waste, which includes diapers, napkins, empty containers of cleaning agents, mosquito repellents, etc. And this will have to be handed over to the authorized rag pickers or waste collectors or the local bodies. Now, if you look into the third statement, generator, yes, he will have to pay user fee to the waste collector, and the rules are now applicable not just to the municipal areas, but their horizons have been expanded. This includes areas under the control of Indian Railways, airports, airbase, port and harbour, defence establishment, special economic zones, state and central government organizations, places of pilgrims, religious as well as historical importance. Why did the government of India come up with these rules? That is because only about 75 to 80% of the municipal waste gets collected, and out of this only 22 to 28% is processed and treated, and remaining is disposed of indiscriminately at the dump yards. In order to prevent these solid waste getting dumped, in order to prevent the health hazards, environmental issues, the government of India came up with solid waste management rules of 2016. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which one amongst the following species does not belong to the category of critically endangered in the IUCN Red List? We have Andaman white-toothed shrew, Indian bison or gaur, Northern river terrapin, Pondicherry shark. The answer to this is Indian bison or gaur. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Indian gaur. If you look into the IUCN status of gaur, it is vulnerable, it is not critically endangered. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section some of the important recently been in news species which are in the critically endangered list from India. Please put it on the comment section. Now, if we speak about gaur, it is also known as the Indian bison. It is among the largest species of wild cattle native to south and southeast. Gaurs are found in evergreen forests or semi-evergreen and deciduous forests in certain areas affected by the human habitation. Gaurs are nocturnal, but in other places they are mostly diurnal. So remember, these are some of the important facts which can be asked in your preliminary examination, and you have to remember these facts. When you look into this article, it currently goes on to say, close on the heels of the project, the translocated cheetahs from Namibia, the Indian government is considering a proposal from Sri Lanka to export a number of gaurs or the Indian bisons to Sri Lanka. So a proposal has come from Sri Lanka for the translocation of the Indian gaurs from India to Sri Lanka. We have to wait and watch what the government of India will do, how this will work out in the near future. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Mars, which of the following statements are correct? Mars is known as the red planet because iron minerals in the Martian soil oxidize or rust, causing the soil and atmosphere to look red. Mars has two moons. Their names are Phobos and Callisto. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to microbes in Mars make conditions unfavorable, which is why we have taken this question with respect to Mars. When we look into the first statement is right. Yes, Mars is known as the red planet. That is because of the iron minerals. When you look into the second statement is wrong. That is because, yes, Mars has two small moons. Their names happen to be, one is Phobos, the other one is not Callisto. As part of the assignment, please put on the comment section, Callisto is the moon of which planet? Please put it on the comment section. So if we speak about Mars, the two moons include Phobos as well as Deimos. So what are the major differences between the Earth as well as the moon? When it comes to the Earth, the primary composition of the Earth consists of nitrogen and oxygen. When it comes to Mars, it is carbon dioxide. The length of the day on Earth is slightly under 24 hours. The length of the day on Mars is 24 hours 37 minutes. The time taken by Earth to complete one orbit of the Sun is 365 days. The time taken by Mars to complete one orbit is 687 Earth days. The polar caps of the Earth are always covered with water ice. The polar caps of Mars are covered with a mixture of carbon dioxide ice and water ice. The surface of Earth is covered with 70% of liquid water. The surface of Mars is covered with bare rock and dust. The primary composition of Earth's atmosphere is nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor and other molecules of gases. The primary composition of Mars is carbon dioxide, argon, nitrogen and traces of oxygen and water. Parameters such as geographical region, time of year and elevation impact the temperature on Earth, which is 14 degrees centigrade. The parameters such as distance from the Sun, a thin atmosphere, tilted axis, orbital eccentricity make the temperature of Mars vary. The moon is the only natural site that orbits the Earth, but when it comes to Mars, what they have is Phobos and Deimos, and it is not Callisto. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. In order to avail the benefit of PMUY, an applicant must be a woman aged above 21 years. The beneficiaries will be selected or identified through the published SECC 2011 data. Under the scheme, oil marketing companies provide interest-free loans for refilling and purchasing stoves. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, in order to avail the benefit of PMUY, an applicant must be a woman. This part is right, but she should be aged 18 and above, and it is not 21. So remember, an applicant must be a woman and she should be more than 18. She should have attained majority. That is when she would be entitled to seek the benefits under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. The other two statements of second and third are right. What are the objectives when it comes to the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana? The Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana would be providing clean fuel to women below poverty line. This will empower women and protect their health. It will minimize health issues arising from the use of unclean fossil fuel and other fuel, to control indoor pollution from the use of fossil fuel, which causes respiratory issues. The Government of India came up with the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. What is the eligibility for the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana? The applicant must be a woman aged above 18 years. She must also be a citizen of India. She should belong to a family below poverty line, and no one else from the household should own an LPG connection. The overall monthly income of the family should not exceed a certain limit prescribed by that union territory or the state government. The applicant's name should be in the list of SCCC 2011. The applicant should not be registered under any other similar scheme provided by the government. If they are able to meet all the established criterion, that is when they would be able to generate or get the benefits under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to the Indian economy, consider the following statement. An increase in nominal effective exchange rate indicates the appreciation of rupee. An increase in the real effective exchange rate indicates an improvement in the trade competitiveness. An increasing trend in domestic inflation relative to inflation in other countries is likely to cause an increasing divergence between the NEER and the REER. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2022. If you look into the second statement is wrong. That is because whenever the real effective exchange rate is increasing or improving, this basically means it is losing its trade competitiveness and it is not an improvement. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is language of coach in India. Though there is no explicit mention of this, we have taken a wording of this article and we will take a broader picture about the languages of coach in India. When we look into the court in India, what we have is the lower court, then we have the High Court, and finally what we have is the Supreme Court of India. When it comes to the High Court and the Supreme Court of India, the language of the judiciary in both these courts, higher courts as well as the Supreme Court, is English. Where is it? It is in the Indian Constitution. Article 348 says language to be used in Supreme Court and in the High Court and for acts, bills, etc. Notwithstanding anything in the foregoing provisions of this part, until Parliament by law otherwise provides, all proceedings in the Supreme Court and in every High Court, the authoritative text of all bills to be introduced or amendments thereto, to be moved in either House of Parliament or in the House of Legislature of a state, of all acts passed by the Parliament or Legislature of a state, of all ordinances promulgated by the President or the Governor of a state, of all orders, rules, regulations, bylaws issued under the Constitution or under any law made by Parliament or the Legislature of a state shall be in the English language. So it clearly points out that when you look into the language of the judiciary, that is the High Court as well as the Supreme Court, what is it? The language in judiciary will be majorly English. What are we speaking about? The High Court as well as the Supreme Court. But what we also have to focus is on the second clause. Notwithstanding anything in subclause of clause 1, the governor of a state may, with the previous consent of the president, authorize the use of Hindi language or any other language used for any official purposes of the state in proceedings in the High Court having its principal seat in that state, provided that nothing in this clause shall apply to any judgment, decree or any order passed or made by such High Court. What do we mean by it? If you look into this entire article, it is very clear that the language of the Supreme Court will always be English. But when you consider the High Courts, there is also this exception that is given under Article 348, where the governor, with the previous consent of the president, can authorize the use of Hindi language or any other language used for any official purposes. Let's say, for example, we have the state of Kerala. In the state of Kerala, they use Malayalam. Let's say the state of Karnataka. In Karnataka, they use Kannada as one of the official languages. So in these states or in any other state where the official language happens to be Hindi, what can they do? The governor can make a proposal to the president. With the permission of the president, they can allow the proceedings to happen in that official language. So in the state of Karnataka, it can be Kannada, which can be used in the proceedings of the High Court. In the state of Kerala, it can be Malayalam. In the state of Uttar Pradesh, it can be Hindi. In the state of Rajasthan, it can be Hindi. So in all these states where the governor has taken the approval of the president, in that case, only for the proceedings, they can use that language. So this basically means that in Supreme Court, it will always be English, but in High Court, English will be the default language. But in addition to that, if the governor so wishes, takes the permission of the president, the official language of the state can also be used for the proceedings. But do note, this is only for the proceedings. But when it comes to judgment, decree or other orders passed, it will only be in English. This is with respect to the High Court. Now what is to do with the district courts? If we speak about the district courts, the language of the subordinate courts, where is it? You have to refer to section 137 of the CPC. What does it say? The state government may declare what shall be the language of any such court and in what character applications and proceedings in such courts shall be written. This basically means that the state government would be able to define which will be the proceedings language in the lower court, in the subordinate court. But in the High Court, it is English. In the Supreme Court, it is English. But in High Court, if the governor asks the permission, then it can be the official language of the state where proceedings can happen, but ultimately judgments will be given in English. So this is very important from the preliminary examination point of view. It is this that we have to understand with respect to the languages of courts in India. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.